A wealthy man fiercely berates a homeless beggar outside a hotel, oblivious that the man he mocks is none other than Hollywood star Keanu Reeves. How did Keanu handle this public humiliation, and what repercussions followed for the businessman? The Los Angeles sunrise painted the city in gold and amber hues, setting the stage for a bustling day. By mid-morning, sunlight glinted off the sleek glass facade of the Opal Heights Hotel as a taxi arrived at its grand entrance. Amid the hum of city life, Keanu Reeves stepped out, his face partly hidden by dark sunglasses, a subtle effort to stay low-key in a city where celebrity culture is ever-present. A doorman in a crisp navy uniform hurried over, greeting him warmly and taking charge of his modest luggage, just a single suitcase and a worn leather backpack. Keanu nodded politely, stretching after his long flight, and took in the grandeur of the hotel's entrance. Inside, revolving doors spun ceaselessly as a stream of excited guests flowed through. The luxurious lobby gleamed with polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and the mingling scents of fresh flowers and expensive perfumes. At the reception desk, a young woman greeted Keanu with a professional smile, though her subtle tremor betrayed her recognition of him. "Welcome to Opal Heights, Mr. Reeves," she said, steadying her voice. "We're delighted to have you here. Are you attending today's luncheon gala?" Keanu, calm and unhurried, responded, "No, just here for some rest and leisure." She reassured him about the hotel's strict privacy policies, emphasizing discretion for high-profile guests. Thanking her, Keanu accepted the sleek key card to the penthouse suite, aiming only for a peaceful retreat. A bellboy, visibly starstruck yet professional, escorted him to his room. The penthouse was a haven of luxury, with panoramic city views, plush furnishings, and a marble-clad bathroom featuring a jacuzzi tub and rain shower. After tipping generously and showering away his travel fatigue, Keanu settled into the suite, ready for a quiet day. Yet the lively chatter from the corridor outside soon stirred his curiosity. The gala buzz was palpable, with guests discussing outfits and networking plans. Intrigued, Keanu decided on a low-profile stroll to explore the hotel and its amenities. Stepping into the hallway, he was swept into the vibrant energy of the event preparations. Guests, many familiar from Hollywood circles, exchanged nods and greetings, assuming Keanu's presence was for the gala. Following the crowd, he reached the grand ballroom, bustling with staff finalizing details. Amid floral displays and polished wood accents, the event's grandeur was evident. As Keanu observed, Raymond, the enthusiastic event coordinator, approached with recognition. "Mr. Reeves, I didn't know you were joining us." Keanu offered a polite smile, clarifying, "I'm just here for a quiet stay," but the excitement caught my attention. What unfolded next was an interplay of Hollywood glamour and Keanu's trademark humility, a reflection of his ability to navigate fame with grace and authenticity. "Oh, you're in for a real experience. This is going to be the event of the year," Raymond said, his eyes alight with excitement as he gestured expansively. "We've gathered Hollywood's creme de la creme today, investors, producers, celebrities. It's all about pitching and funding the next big blockbusters." As Raymond spoke, Keanu's attention was drawn to banners and digital screens displaying the same face, a sharp-featured man with a confident smile.
"Who's that?"
Keanu asked, nodding toward one of the larger displays. "That's Victor Prescott," Raymond explained, his voice filled with admiration. "He's the star of the gala, a tech mogul turned entertainment investor. He made his fortune with cutting-edge tech and now has his eyes set on conquering the entertainment industry." Raymond leaned closer, as if sharing a secret. "His latest project is Titan Rising, a biopic loosely based on his own life, a billionaire's journey to global dominance, overcoming challenges to achieve greatness." He guided Keanu toward a table piled with books and handed him one. "This is Victor's autobiography. It's been a bestseller for weeks. A must-read about his rise from poverty to incredible wealth." Keanu accepted the book politely, glancing at the cover. It bore Victor's confident face and the title, "From Streets to Skyscrapers: The Victor Prescott Story." "So, Mr. Reeves," Raymond said hopefully, "since you're here, Would you like to attend the gala? I can handle your registration right now. Keanu shook his head with a small, apologetic smile. Thanks, Raymond, but I'm just here for some rest, taking a break between projects. Raymond's enthusiasm dimmed slightly, but didn't fade entirely. Of course, I understand. It's just such a big opportunity. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? The networking alone. I'm sure, Keanu interrupted gently but firmly. Thanks, though. Understood, Raymond replied, nodding. But if you change your mind, let me know. Oh, and we have a private online broadcast channel for the event. I could set it up on your device so you can watch from your room. Keanu hesitated briefly. I'll think about it. Thanks for the info and the book. As they parted, Keanu found himself drawn to the lounge, a quiet space with soft lighting and plush armchairs. He ordered a drink and watched as more high-profile guests checked in at the front desk, their presence sparking murmurs among staff and other visitors. When his drink arrived, paired with a delicate pastry, Keanu sipped it thoughtfully, his gaze drifting to Victor's autobiography on the table. The glossy cover caught the light, and despite his initial disinterest, he found himself flipping through its pages. The table of contents promised an inspiring tale of resilience, but as Keanu read the first chapter, his interest waned. The writing was self-congratulatory, filled with exaggerated anecdotes, meant more to impress than to inspire. Sighing softly, he set the book down, finished his coffee, and decided to return to the sanctuary of his suite. The lobby had grown livelier, buzzing with the chatter of new arrivals and the occasional flash of cameras. As Keanu stood to leave, a commotion near the hotel entrance caught his attention. Curious, he moved closer and saw Victor Prescott in person. Dressed in an immaculate suit, Victor exuded the confidence from his photos, but there was an unflattering hardness in his eyes and a faint sneer in his expression. Victor was berating hotel staff with a sharp voice and impatient gestures. "This is unacceptable," he snapped, pointing toward the courtyard. "I made it clear I didn't want those people around during my event." Keanu followed his gaze to see a small group of homeless individuals in the courtyard, sitting quietly and minding their own business. Yet Victor's face was twisted with disdain. "Sir, we've done our best to keep the area clear," a security guard stammered, visibly uncomfortable. "Your best isn't good enough," Victor barked. Lowering his voice slightly, though it still carried across the marble lobby, he added, "This is why stricter rules are necessary. People like this are an eyesore, a blight on this event." A wave of discomfort rolled over Keanu as he watched the scene unfold. He glanced around the room, gauging the reactions of others, and saw a mix of unease and quiet compliance. Keanu remained still, his expression thoughtful yet unreadable as he absorbed the moment. Keanu expected to see shock or disapproval from the other guests, but to his surprise, most seemed to deliberately avoid looking at the scene. A few even nodded subtly, appearing to agree with Victor's harsh words. Under Victor's stern orders, the hotel security began moving the homeless individuals away. Keanu watched uneasily as they were rushed off the property, their few belongings hastily shoved into their arms. Victor stood nearby, his disdain unmistakable. "Look at them," he muttered, loud enough for those around him to hear. "No ambition, no drive. They choose to live like this, and then expect handouts from those of us who've worked hard for our success." A group of well-dressed individuals, likely Victor's associates, hovered near him, nodding in agreement and chiming in with their own belittling remarks. Their eagerness to align themselves with Victor's sentiments made Keanu's stomach churn. As the last of the homeless individuals were ushered away, Victor turned sharply and strode back into the hotel, his entourage trailing behind him. He passed near Keanu but didn't acknowledge him, apparently dismissing him as just another guest in casual attire. Inside, Victor's demeanor shifted dramatically. His charm turned on like a switch as he greeted celebrities with a warm smile, shaking hands and engaging in pleasant exchanges. The stark contrast between his treatment of the homeless and his polished public persona left Keanu deeply unsettled. The disparity between Victor's behavior and the rags-to-riches story from his autobiography weighed heavily on Keanu's mind. He felt a growing unease, knowing he couldn't simply retreat to his room and ignore what he'd just witnessed. Taking a deep breath, Keanu decided to act. Instead of heading to the elevators, he walked toward the hotel's revolving doors. He had no clear plan but knew he couldn't remain silent. Stepping into the bright California sunshine, Keanu immediately noticed a tense scene unfolding in the courtyard. A security guard, visibly frustrated, was arguing with a homeless woman. Despite her quiet and composed demeanor, the guard's tone was aggressive. "Look, lady," the guard snapped, his voice laced with impatience. "It's not my job to wake you up nicely like your mom would. You need to move." The woman, dressed in worn but clean clothes, stood her ground. "I wasn't bothering anyone," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I just needed a moment to rest." "This is private property," the guard retorted sharply. "You're not a guest, so you have to leave." Their raised voices drew uneasy glances from passing hotel guests, most of whom quickened their pace to avoid the confrontation. Keanu, however, couldn't look away. The desperation in the woman's eyes contrasted starkly with the guard's irritation. Keanu stepped forward, his voice calm yet authoritative. "Excuse me," he said, drawing the attention of both the guard and the woman. The guard's posture faltered when he recognized Keanu. "Mr. Reeves," he stammered, clearly caught off guard. Keanu nodded briefly, but kept his focus on the situation. "Is there a problem here?" The guard straightened, trying to regain his authority. "We've had complaints about homeless people loitering. I'm just doing my job." Keanu turned to the woman. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked gently. She nodded hesitantly, her eyes darting between Keanu and the guard. "I was just resting," she murmured. "The pavement outside is so hot, and the hotel steps were cooler. I didn't mean any trouble. I just fell asleep." Keanu listened intently before addressing the guard in a firm but measured tone. "I understand you have a job to do," he said. "But surely there's a way to handle this with more compassion. This woman deserves to be treated with respect, whether she's a guest or not." The guard shifted uncomfortably under Keanu's steady gaze. I suppose I could have been more polite," he admitted reluctantly. Keanu nodded, offering a faint smile. "That's all anyone can ask. Kindness doesn't cost us anything but can mean everything to someone in need." The woman, who had been silent during the exchange, whispered a quiet "thank you" to Keanu before turning to leave. Her shoulders hunched as if bracing for further confrontation, but she disappeared without incident. As she left, Keanu noticed a worn gray blanket left behind on the ground. Without hesitation, he picked it up. The fabric was soft from years of use, a silent testament to struggles endured. Keanu stood there, holding the blanket, unsure of what to do next. The guard, noticing his hesitation, spoke up. "Would you like me to throw that away for you, sir?" he asked, his tone uncertain. "No," Keanu replied, shaking his head. "I'll wait here in case she comes back for it." The guard nodded, clearly relieved that the situation was resolved but confused by Keanu's choice to stay. "Of course, Mr. Reeves. Take all the time you need." As the guard returned to his post, Keanu noticed a hot dog vendor nearby. He glanced back at the blanket in his hands, resolved to wait as long as necessary to ensure it wasn't discarded. As Keanu sat quietly on the hotel steps with a blanket across his lap, sipping coffee and observing the passing crowd, the late morning sun climbed higher. The guests attending the gala, clad in designer clothes and adorned with glittering jewelry, contrasted sharply with the humble blanket he held. He hoped the woman who owned it would return, reflecting on the stark disparity between the luxury inside the hotel and the harsh realities of life outside its doors. Keanu's quiet presence soon drew the ire of Victor Prescott, the hotel's manager, who emerged from the building with a look of irritation. Dressed in an impeccable suit, Victor's sharp eyes scanned the area, ensuring everything was in order. When his gaze landed on Keanu, his expression soured. Victor stormed over, his polished shoes clicking on the pavement. Without recognizing the world-famous actor, he saw only what he thought was a vagrant. "Unbelievable," Victor snapped, his voice echoing through the courtyard. "I thought we got rid of people like you this morning. How dare you loiter here?" Keanu raised an eyebrow but said nothing, taking another sip of his coffee. Victor, mistaking Keanu's silence for defiance, continued his tirade. "Do you have any idea who I am?" he demanded. "This is a respectable establishment, not a homeless shelter. You people never accomplish anything because you waste your time begging instead of working." Keanu responded with calm amusement. "Nice to meet you too." Victor's anger boiled over. "Don't get smart with me," he barked, turning to a nearby security guard. "Remove him immediately." The guard hesitated, recognizing Keanu but unsure how to intervene. Before anyone could act, a sleek black limousine pulled up to the driveway, and out stepped Emma Carlson, a celebrated director known for her socially conscious films. She was followed by a small group of press members, their cameras snapping away. Emma's eyes widened as she took in the scene. Victor Prescott manhandling a man he assumed was homeless, who turned out to be Keanu Reeves. "Wait a second," Emma called out, her voice cutting through the commotion. "That's Keanu Reeves." Victor froze, his hand dropping from Keanu's arm. The color drained from his face as he processed what had just happened. "What?" he stammered. He's a celebrity?" Keanu stood, brushing off his clothes where Victor had grabbed him. Fixing Victor with a steady gaze, he said, "You were saying?" Victor's earlier confidence crumbled under the weight of the crowd's stares and the relentless clicks of cameras. He tried to recover, stumbling over his words. "This is all a misunderstanding," he blurted. I didn't realize." Keanu interrupted, his tone calm but firm. "And if I had been one of those undesirable elements, would your behavior have been acceptable?" Victor's face flushed, and he turned to the hotel staff in desperation. "Get these reporters out of here," he barked. This hotel prides itself on discretion. The scene only deepened the growing contrast between Victor's arrogance and Keanu's quiet dignity. As Victor retreated into the hotel, muttering about people doing anything for attention, Keanu turned his focus to the woman who had returned, scanning the area for her lost blanket. Keanu approached her with the blanket in hand. "I believe this belongs to you," he said gently. Her eyes widened in surprise. "Thank you," she whispered. "I thought I'd lost it for good." Keanu smiled warmly. "I'm glad I could return it. I'm sorry about earlier. You didn't deserve that." Their exchange was a stark reminder of the power of kindness. Emma Carlson, observing from the sidelines, shook her head in disbelief. "Victor Prescott," she murmured to her assistant, "a man who brags about his rags-to-riches story, treating someone like that, and Keanu Reeves, quietly doing the right thing." Later, Keanu found a quiet corner with the woman, who introduced herself as Isabel Moran. As she shared her story of losing her husband, her home, and her stability, Keanu listened intently. When she finished, he offered her a chance. He provided some money for immediate needs, information about shelters, and even scribbled down his assistant's number for follow-up. "I don't want charity," Isabel said, her voice trembling but firm. "I just want an opportunity." Keanu nodded, respecting her resolve. "Take this for now to get back on your feet. Tomorrow, call my assistant. We'll find you something sustainable, a real chance." For Isabel, it was more than an act of kindness. It was a lifeline. She thanked Keanu, her voice filled with a mix of gratitude and hope. As Isabel walked away, clutching the blanket and her newfound hope, Keanu turned back to the hotel, knowing that true respect isn't about appearances, it's about how we treat others when no one's watching. As Keanu approached the hotel lobby, he noticed Emma Carlson, the accomplished director he had seen earlier, flanked by several industry power players. Emma's face lit up as she spotted him. "Mr. Reeves," she called out warmly, her voice cutting through the background murmur. "I'm glad I caught you. That was quite a scene earlier." Keanu gave her a polite nod. "Miss Carlson, yes, it was unexpected." The group surrounding her closed in, their expressions a mix of curiosity and admiration. One of the producers, a man Keanu vaguely recognized, broke the ice. It's hard to believe Victor Prescott acted that way, especially given his own rags-to-riches story. Emma chimed in, her voice tinged with thoughtful disapproval. "It does make you question how often someone's public image diverges from their private actions." Keanu remained quiet, listening. The conversation naturally broadened to touch on the responsibilities of those in their industry. He found himself drawn into the discussion, a rarity for him. Maybe, he said after a pause, it's time we focus less on individual success stories and more on themes of kindness, community, and humility, stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Heads nodded in agreement. Emma, intrigued, turned to him. That's a compelling idea, Keanu. Have you thought about taking on more socially conscious roles? Before Keanu could answer, the atmosphere shifted. Victor Prescott emerged from the elevator, his once commanding aura dimmed. He strode past the group without acknowledging anyone, his clenched jaw betraying his tension. For a moment, his eyes met Keanu's. There was a flicker of something, resentment perhaps, but Victor said nothing, disappearing into the event hall. Emma shook her head. Unbelievable, she murmured. Not even an apology. The group murmured in agreement, some openly discussing whether they could continue associating with Victor's projects. Keanu stayed silent, recognizing the ripples of change spreading through the industry. As the group moved into the event hall, Emma turned back to Keanu. Are you sure you won't join us? Your perspective would really matter. Keanu smiled faintly. Thank you, but I think I've stirred up enough for one day. I'll watch from my room. Emma nodded. What you did today, Keanu. It matters more than you might realize. Back in his suite, Keanu settled onto the balcony with his phone. The private live stream Raymond had set up for him flickered to life, showcasing the glittering gala. His eyes landed on Victor, lingering near the bar. The once dominant figure now seemed to shrink into the background, his interactions strained and brief. Those who had once clamored for his attention now avoided him, offering polite excuses to end conversations. The camera shifted to Emma taking the stage, her voice cutting through the din of the gala. Today has been one of reflection, she began. It's made me, and I hope many of you, reconsider the stories we tell and the values we uplift in our industry. We've celebrated tales of individual triumph, but perhaps it's time to focus on stories of compassion and connection. Stories that inspire us to lift each other up. The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing through the live stream. Keanu smiled, feeling a flicker of hope for the industry he'd long been a part of. Pausing the stream, he picked up his phone and dialed Patrick, his assistant. Patrick, I need your help. Tomorrow, a woman named Isabel Moran will call. I want you to help her find job training programs and employment opportunities. And look into reputable organizations addressing homelessness in LA. Let's see how we can contribute meaningfully. I'm on it, Patrick assured him. Keanu returned to the stream, watching as Victor's once proud campaign banner was quietly removed. The visual mirrored the collapse of Victor's public image. A hollow success built on arrogance could not withstand scrutiny. As the sun set over Los Angeles, casting a warm glow over the city, Keanu stood on the balcony, gazing out at the sprawling skyline. Beyond the glittering world of Hollywood, he thought of people like Isabel, facing challenges that went unnoticed in the glitzy facades of his industry. Today, what began as a search for quiet reflection had evolved into something far more profound. Keanu felt a renewed sense of purpose, a commitment to use his influence not for glory, but to amplify kindness and humanity. Sometimes, he mused, the most meaningful changes begin in the moments we least expect.